I have right here the single most expensive set of comic books that I've ever purchased. $300,000 in just 8 books. We're going to talk about the deal, how it went down, pricing, and everything like that. We're going to start with the lowest value and end with the big boy, over $100,000 book. Sitting right here. I just unboxed these. My heart is racing. I unboxed it about 5 minutes ago, and I wanted to get this video up so I get these on the site because they're all going to be available for trade. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the reason people are selling me their mega big boy books like this on almost a daily basis now is because I'm offering incredibly competitive prices for Grail books and incredibly competitive prices on everything. And I guarantee you, if you're looking to sell, you won't regret shooting me an email. If it doesn't work out, doesn't work out, but it'll be no BS, no badgering, just a clean, fair offer shot to you. And if you decide to do it, it's a seamless process, fully insured shipping, money in your account, probably faster than any other resource in the comic community. So reach out to me if you're looking to sell. And we also have those giveaways here on the YouTube channel. If you subscribe, comment, and like, you're entered to win this valuable slab this month. And if you sign up for that newsletter, it's where you get first notification of new inventory. I always send out a newsletter when new inventory hits the site at brycecomics.com. So make sure to go check over there for availability and pricing on these. And like I said, all of them will be available for trade. And we're going to start with the lowest value one and work our way up. So starting out with Amazing Spider-Man number 14 in an 8.5 with white pages. This is the first appearance of the Green Goblin and the first meeting of the Hulk and Spider-Man. Classic Steve Ditko cover. Really cool to see it in white pages from 1964. And this one is valued, I believe, at around $6,000. So $6,000 is the low point here. The next one on the list is, I believe, around $15,000. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 first print, origin and first appearance of the TMNT, and it's a 9.2 with white pages. Absolutely gorgeous. So happy to have those in the shop. They always go immediately. TMNT trades and purchases. I mean, I'd be surprised if it lasts for more than a day. But likewise, in my opinion here, the bigger grail for TMNT is Gobbledygook #1 in a 7.5 with white pages. This is the first appearance of Fugitoid, and it's also the back cover ad for TMNT #1, which has the actual cover of TMNT, and it's also signed and sketched on the back by Kevin Eastman, and it's also authenticated by Kevin Eastman, which is really important with this book because there are counterfeits out there. So this one is certified by CGC, authenticated by Kevin Eastman, which is what you want, and it's also QES, Quality Evaluation Service, certified for whatever that's worth. I think that's probably not worth much unless you like a tiny little sticker. I mean, it's definitely a 7.5. This book is valued at around $20,000. It's much more rare than TMNT, much more difficult to come by. I mean, it just hardly ever comes up for sale. And if you don't agree with me that that's the real biggest grail for TMNT, and you think it's the TMNT #1 first print, well, you're in luck because we have 2 copies of it. We also have a TMNT #1 first print, 9.4 with white pages. So 2 copies of TMNT. This is something for the ages, folks. That Gobbledygook, though, I've never even seen that book in person, and it's really, really cool to see. Next up, we have X-Men #1 in a 7.0. And this thing, I mean, just look at the colors on this thing. You can tell it wasn't pressed or cleaned because it has a certain number that starts with 130, which means it was graded a long time ago. And you can see right there something going on that obviously could be improved with pressing. It's got a little bit of Marvel chipping on the right-hand side. So I don't know. I would have to check the price difference between 7.0 and a 7.5, but I could see this thing getting a bump to a 7.5. Not sure if it would be worth it. I mean, it absolutely, without a doubt, does not stand a chance to drop to a 6.5. So, you know, it just all depends. And I don't know, depending on the numbers, that might be worth taking a shot at. But man, these colors are just drippy. I mean, this is a really, really nice copy. I had a 7.5 white page copy recently that sold for over $30,000, but that one is very similar as far as condition. All right, next up, this one is just insane. Iron Man #1 in a 9.8 with white pages, a 12 center from 1968, the first solo series for Iron Man, Origin of Iron Man retold, and I believe it's also the first appearance of Madame Mask, is it not? But anyways, also the color strike on this one is just ridiculous. I mean, it looks wet. It looks like this thing was just taken right off the press, wet, and just stored for, what are we talking, 60 years? And not even like this tiny, oh man, it's just insane to see this in this condition. And this one brings up a really interesting point. Would you rather have like a 7.0 Tales of Suspense #39, the first appearance of Iron Man, or an Iron Man 1 in a 9.8? I mean, there's definitely less 9.8 white Iron Man 1s than there are, of all of the Tales of the TOS 39s that you could afford for the same price. I almost would think, for my own personal collection someday, now's not the time for me to pick this up, but I almost would think that I would prefer like a lower grade TOS 39 that presents well, like a 3040, and then put whatever money would have gone towards that to this, because this hits a little different seeing it in 9.8. So $25,000 for that one. All right, now we got to get into the two big boys, and this one is just absolutely nuts. Mad #1 in a 9.8. And this is the Gaines file copy. So this is a pedigree copy of Mad #1 from EC Comics in 1952. It's the first ever satire comic book, and it's nearly perfect. I mean, this is a PSA 10 if I've ever seen one. I mean, I'm kidding, but not really. And I'm not throwing shade. We'll save that for a future video, but I could see this thing getting a PSA 10. It's just crazy to see in this condition. And the reason it's in this condition is because it's from the Bill Gaines file copy. So I'll put a picture up of the cert right here. So Bill Gaines and his family kind of pioneered the modern comic book. And when I say modern comic, I mean like from the 1950s and collecting in the 60s. And Bill Gaines kept 12 copies of every single book that he published between 1950 and 1955. And then a year before he passed away, they all came to market. And they got this pedigree, and they all got this COA. Lots of them got 9.8s, not all of them, but lots of them got 9.8s because he just took them, right off the press and put them in paper bags and stored them without being touched, which is unusual for file copies. When you see like Stan Lee file copies or other creators, they typically weren't thinking of preserving them as collectibles. They were using them as a resource. Like Stan Lee would pull out his file copies and read what happened in, Amazing Spider-Man #15, so he could for continuity and stuff. So the Stan Lee file copies are beat to crap. I mean, they're like 4.0, 5.0s, mid-grade copies, some of them even lower, because they weren't kept as collectibles. They were a resource. Whereas these, I think it was more of a collectible thing. So it's just an incredibly important part of comic book history, what his family did for comic books and collecting. And not only that, this particular book. I mean, there's lots of Gaines file copies, but this is Mad #1, the first ever satire comic book. So if you were to send this back in, you could get the black pedigree, the black and gold pedigree label from CGC, and send it in with the COA here and keep the COA. All right, for the big boy, this is unbelievable. We have Fantastic Four #5 in a 9.2. The origin and first appearance of Dr. Doom, and a full page ad for Hulk #1 and a letter from Roy Thomas. 1962, predates Hulk #1, and it's the first appearance of Dr. Doom and the first cover appearance of Dr. Doom, and it's a 9.2. This thing is valued at $108,000. That was the most recent sale, which was in June of 2025. So we have Avengers Doomsday coming out, which is going to feature Dr. Doom, played by Robert Downey Jr. And I mean, just imagine, I just got chills right now just talking about it, because imagine seeing him on screen and knowing that you have one of the highest graded copies of his first appearance in a comic book, it's just exhilarating. I know from experience. I've had that experience. I had it recently because I knew this was on the way. If you haven't seen the Fantastic Four movie, I highly recommend it. It's such an awesome movie. So many callbacks to the original content of comic books, and it really makes it fun for us collectors to, share that in the big screen. The vast majority of people watching that have no idea for these little Easter eggs that they're throwing in there for comic books, but it just makes our hobby feel celebrated and respected, and it just feels so much more special. And I got to tell you, it feels really, really cool sitting in a movie theater knowing that you have some of the most valuable versions of the characters that you're seeing on screen. So anyways, this would make just an unbelievable addition to somebody's collection, Fantastic Four fans. It's the second most expensive book that's ever come through my shop, the first being Fantastic Four #1 in an 8.0. I believe it was an 8.0 that I sold for $125,000. So this is a close second. And I got to tell you, it's just odd to see this thing in this condition, and it's so freaking cool. And I hope one of you guys picks it up for your collections. So let's talk about the deal and the pricing and how this whole thing went down. So the two books that made me a little bit nervous in this deal was the Mad Comics #1 and the Fantastic Four #5. The Mad Comics #1, the last sale was, I believe it was $81,000. We have it listed for $78,000, which was the sale before that, and it sold for $91,000, I believe it was, in 2019, pre-comic book market boom. Those were all Gaines file copy sales of the 9.8. So we have it right in the middle there at the 78, and I thought, what price would I be comfortable with buying this outright? And I couldn't really throw out a number high enough that he was comfortable with. And I said, well, why don't we consign it? We can consign it. I'll list it for $78,000. If it sells and somebody buys it cash and sends me a wire, I'll just take $1,000 fee. So that's like less than 2% of a commission if somebody buys this cash. But if somebody wanted to trade for it, then I would take 10% off the sale price from what's going to him and add 20% to the sale price to the person who's doing the trade. So my margin would be 30%, and that's because I would buy this comic from him for 10% less than $78,000, tying up all my money and doing a trade, and it's a lot of work involved. So that's how the trade would work with a consignment. And likewise for the Fantastic Four #5, I just really didn't want it for 80% of $108,000 because it's not that I didn't think it was a good price. It's just I didn't want to tie up that much money, and I'm not entirely sure what the response is going to be. Do I have customers that have, $130,000 or whatever the trade is on this in books to trade for this? And I didn't want the scenario to be that I had it and needed to send it to auction, because that would be my worst case scenario, because then I don't know how much it's going to sell for, although there is all of this buzz right now about RDJ and Dr. Doom. So, I would think that it would bode well. There's an argument to be made that this copy is nicer than the one that sold for $108,000 2 months ago. But I just said, why don't we just do the same thing? We'll do a consignment. If it sells, I'll take $1,000 fee. I don't need to get rich off it. It's very little work involved to sell one comic book. So it's less than 1% commission if somebody wants to buy this thing cash. And I just would prefer to do that than have the potential to make $20,000 profit, but I have to take on 100% of the risk. So it just worked out better for me. And then I'm hoping that I get a trade because I'm happy with the 30% margin. And I also want the ability to put an unbelievable collectible into somebody's collection that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do via trade. So absolutely just over the moon about this. I'm getting all the feels. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me on the ride. Thank you to the seller for entrusting me with your collectibles. I hope one of you guys picks up one of these big boy books and pulls the trigger on these, historical documents at this point when they're this nice. They're pieces of history. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.